this morning, it's not morning, it's evening. This evening, I want to share with you a story that many of you probably heard growing up or read to your kids, or maybe after today you'll read it for your kids. It's called Love You Forever. And an interesting thing about life is we learn a lot about love from those around us. Some of you can relate to that when your parents loved you so deeply. And the only real earthly example that we can even begin to understand unconditional love, in my opinion, is the love of a parent for a child. Many of your kids have been imperfect, they've made mistakes, and yet you still love them. And so even though I would challenge you and say at some point your love probably still is a little conditional. We can argue that, I guess. God's love for you is not. His love is unconditional. It's a picture of a mother holding her baby. A mother held her new baby and very slowly rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she held him, she sang, "I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." The baby grew. He grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was 2 years old. And he ran all around the house. He pulled all the books off the shelves. He pulled all the food out of the refrigerator. And he took his mother's wash and flushed it down the toilet. Sometimes his mother would say, "This kid is driving me crazy." There he is with the watch, the toilet. But at nighttime, when that 2-year-old was quiet, she opened the door to his room, crawled across the floor, looked up over the side of his bed, and if he was really asleep, she picked him up and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. While she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you for always, love you forever, I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." The little boy grew. He grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was 9 years old. And he never wanted to come in for dinner. He never wanted to take a bath. And when Grandma visited, he always said bad words. Sometimes his mother wanted to sell him to the zoo. There's this tough little boy. But at nighttime, when he was asleep, the mother quietly opened the door to his room, crawled across the floor, and looked up over the side of the bed. If he was really asleep, she picked up that 9-year-old boy and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." The boy grew. He grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was a teenager. He had strange friends, and he wore strange clothes, and he listened to strange music. Sometimes his mother felt like she was in a zoo. But at nighttime, when that teenager was asleep, the mother opened the door to his room, crawled across the floor, and looked up over the side of the bed. If he was really asleep, she picked up that great big boy and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. While she rocked him, she sang, "I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." We go to the book of 1 John, chapter 4. I think it's up here for you, hopefully. It says, "We love because he first loved us." As before we mentioned, we are capable of great amounts of love because of God's love for us. Whether you agree with even believing in him, whether or not you even acknowledge he exists, a part of you can experience love because of God's love for you. And this mother, as you see that she is pursuing her son, we oftentimes, as God's children, are rebellious. We don't do what we're supposed to do, and we don't listen. We say bad words. And God continues to pursue us. And I love that part where she says, I love you always. I'll like you. You mentioned before, I'm sure, about your spouses. I love my spouse, but I don't always like them. God always likes you, and he always loves you. It's just a cool truth to know about. That teenager grew. He grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was a grown-up man. He left home and got a house across town, as they often do. But sometimes, on dark nights, the mother got into her car and drove across town. If all the lights in her son's house were out, she opened his bedroom window, crawled across the floor, and looked up over the side of his bed. If that great big man was really asleep, she picked him up and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. She's pursuing her son. Well, that mother, she got older. She got older and older and older. One day she called up her son and said, you better come and see me because I'm very old and sick. So her son came to see her. When he came in the door, she tried to sing the song. She sang, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. But she couldn't finish because she was too old and sick. The son went up to his mother. He picked her up and rocked her back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And he sang this song, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my mommy you'll be. I'll show that picture. Part of the beauty of being loved is when we are able to now give that on to somebody else. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 22, it should be up here too, Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets. You recognize that when Christ came to earth as a human child, he went farther than across the town. He went farther than across the world. He left heaven and came to earth because he was pursuing us who had been rebellious, us who had turned our backs on him, and even allowed us who are not Jewish people to be a part of his kingdom. What a great love. And now because of that, when the son came home that night, he stood for a long time at the top of the stairs. Then he went into the room where his very new baby daughter was sleeping. He picked her up in his arms and very slowly rocked her back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while he rocked her, he sang, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. Now, God will never get too old and too tired, but we can still learn how to love by being loved by him. I want to finish this with Book of Psalms 139. And while I read this to you, I want you just to think about the pursuit. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You understand my thought from afar. You scrutinize my path and my lying down and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Even before there is a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all. You have enclosed me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is too high. I cannot attain to it. Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the dawn If I dwell in the remotest part of the sea, even there your hand will lead me, and your right hand will lay hold of me. If I say, surely the darkness will overwhelm me, and the light around me will be night, even the darkness is not dark to you, and the night is as bright as the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are my works, and my soul knows it very well. As you go through life, and as tomorrow comes and you open presents with your kids, I pray that you will remember you are being pursued by a God who is bigger, greater, and doesn't need us, but he chooses to be with us. We're going to enter a time of communion today, and we're going to ask you to come forward as you feel led and take the elements, the juice, the blood, and the bread, the flesh. And as a family or by yourself, go back to your seat, go to the altar, and as music is playing, and listen carefully, as you feel led, take part of the elements. Let's pray. Father God, we just thank you so much for loving us. We thank you for your Son. We're just celebrating his coming tomorrow, but may we always celebrate his coming. May we pursue other people as you pursue us. May we love as we have experienced love from you. And may no matter what we do or what we say, may we always know you are there for us. There is no deed too dark that you won't take us back. As we prepare to take your elements, Father, may this blood be a reminder of the blood that was spilled, representing the sacrifice that you made. And this bread, the flesh that was beaten and broken for us. Despite our rebellion, you sent perfection to die for us. May we never take that for granted. Amen.